The fourth labor began with an order Heracles had heard before: bring it back alive. The last time, it had cost him a year chasing a deer. This time it would cost him something he could never get back. The target was the Erymanthian Boar, a creature the size of a bull that came down from Mount Erymanthos to tear the farms of Arcadia apart. The king wanted it caught and dragged back breathing. Here is the strange thing about the fourth labor: the boar is the easy part. Apollodorus gives it a single sentence. The real story happens on the road to the mountain over a cup of wine with an old friend, and it ends in two graves. On his way to Erymanthos, Heracles came to the highlands of Pholus, and there, in a cave in the hills, lived a centaur named Pholus, not one of the wild ones, but a gentle, decent soul who welcomed the hero in like family. Pholus set out a fine meal, but there was a small difference between them at the table. The centaur ate his meat raw and served his guests roasted. Heracles thanked him, ate, and then asked for the one thing a good host hates to refuse: wine. Pholus went still. There was wine, one jar, a huge sealed pithos sunk into the cave floor, but it wasn't his. It was a gift of the god Dionysus, left in trust for the whole centaur race, to be opened only when Heracles himself should come. That day, it turned out, was today. Pholus hesitated. A jar that belongs to every centaur is a jar you open at your peril. But Heracles was not a patient man, and prophecy said the wine was his to broach. So he pulled the seal himself. And the moment the pithos opened, a rich divine fragrance rolled out of the cave and into the mountains. That smell was a summons. Divine wine, 4 generations old, on the cold mountain air, and every wild centaur on Pholus lifted its head at once. What belonged to all of them was being drunk without them. They came down the slopes at a run. They arrived in a fury, the wild centaurs of the mountain, armed with uprooted pine trees and boulders torn from the hillside, storming the mouth of the cave. Gentle Pholus shrank back in terror, but his guest did not. And so, in a friend's doorway, over a jar of wine, the arrows came out of the quiver. The same arrows Heracles had dipped in the blood of the Hydra one labor ago. Against those, no strength and no thick hide mattered. A single scratch was a death sentence. He loosed into the pack, and the wild centaurs broke. Those the arrows touched fell. The rest wheeled and fled down the mountain, and Heracles came out of the cave and ran them off the slopes of Pholus. It should have ended there. It didn't. Because of all the places the surviving centaurs could run, they ran to the one that would break Heracles' heart. They fled south, toward Malea, to the cave of the wisest and gentlest of their whole race. They fled to Chiron. You have to understand who Chiron was, not a wild thing at all. He was immortal, the son of a Titan, the tutor who raised Jason and Asclepius and Achilles. Wise, kind, a healer, and he had once been Heracles' own teacher. The pursuit ran straight to his door. Heracles pressed the attack among the crowd of centaurs sheltering with Chiron, and loosed. And one flew past the wild centaur he aimed at and found the old teacher instead. It struck Chiron in the knee. The wisest of the centaurs, felled by his own student's hand. Heracles ran to him. He knew instantly what he had done. He drew the arrow, and Chiron himself, the greatest healer alive, tried every remedy he knew on his own leg. Nothing worked. The Hydra's venom does not answer to medicine. And here the myth turns cruel in a way the monsters never managed. Chiron was immortal. He could not die, so the poison could not kill him. It could only burn, without end, forever. The one mercy left to a mortal, death, was the one thing he was denied. This wound sets up one of the saddest bargains in all of myth. Later, to find release, Chiron will trade away his immortality itself, handing it to the chained Titan Prometheus so that he, Chiron, might finally be allowed to die. That grief starts here, in this cave, with this arrow. There was nothing Heracles could do. He left his old teacher in endless pain and turned back for Pholus to finish what the wine had started, not knowing the wine had one more life to take. And this one was even closer to him. Back at the cave, gentle Pholus had been burying the fallen from the fight, and he could not understand it. How could something so small, a thin reed, a light dart, bring down creatures so huge and strong? Curious, he drew one of the fallen arrows out to look at it. It slipped, the arrow turned in his fingers, and the poisoned tip fell against his foot. And the same venom that no strength could resist took the kindest centaur on the mountain in moments. Pholus, who had done nothing but welcome a friend, was gone before Heracles even returned. Heracles came back to find his host dead on the cave floor. He buried Pholus with his own hands there on the mountain, and the Greeks say the whole range took the centaur's name afterward, Mount Pholui, a friend's tombstone the size of a mountain. Sit with the arithmetic of it. He had not yet laid a finger on the boar, but the fourth labor had already cost 2 lives, his old teacher condemned to endless agony, and a gentle friend dead in his own home. The Hydra's poison was still collecting its debts, 1 labor later. And through all of it, the labor still stood. Somewhere above him, on Erymanthos, the boar was still tearing up Arcadia. Grieving or not, Heracles had a beast to catch, so he climbed up out of the graves and into the snow. Apollodorus tells the capture simply. Heracles found the boar in its thicket, and instead of fighting it head-on, he did something almost undignified for the strongest man alive. He shouted. He chased it out of the brush with sheer noise, driving it uphill into the deep snow. This was the whole trick. A boar the size of a bull is unstoppable on open ground, but drive it into a deep snowdrift, and all that weight becomes a trap. The beast floundered, sank, and tired. The snow held it fast while the man simply waited. When it had worn itself out, Heracles waded in, bound the exhausted boar in heavy chains, and hauled the whole enormous, still-living weight of it up across his shoulders. For the second labor running, he carried his catch home breathing. And down in Mycenae, word ran ahead of him. Heracles was coming, and this time he wasn't bringing a skin or a jar of foul water or a golden deer. He was bringing the living boar itself, tusks and all, in through the palace gate. And this is the image the ancient world loved most about Eurystheus. At the sight of the live boar coming through the door, the king of Mycenae did not command or negotiate or flee the room. He jumped, headfirst, down into his great bronze storage jar and hid. From somewhere down inside the bronze, a muffled royal voice waved the labor complete and begged Heracles to take the thing away. The fourth labor was over, and some say Heracles, thoroughly done with it all, simply flung the boar off toward the sea and left it. So that's the fourth labor. Everyone remembers the funny part, the king in the jar, the boar in the snow. Almost nobody remembers what it actually cost. A wise teacher burning forever, a kind friend in a mountain grave. The boar was never the danger, the wine was. And notice the pattern starting to form. 1 labor ago, Heracles made those arrows to win. Now they've killed 2 innocents he never meant to harm. The Hydra's venom will follow him for the rest of his life, and one day, far from here, it will come for him too. Hera had aimed teeth and tusks at him and watched the poison do more damage than the boar ever could. The 5th labor would carry no monster at all, only filth, 30 years of it, in the vast stables of a king named Augeas, and 1 impossible morning to clean it. Follow the story. Heracles is only getting started.